back corner when I'm not presenting.
Listening in.
And listen in.
Hey everybody, welcome to Bass University Live here on Tuesday night.
Take a quick break, watch John Cruise's on the Tokyo rig.
Be a part of the show, get some chances to win some awesome prizes.
This Bass you go. You know, we didn't have that back then, and dude, it was just...
That text thread gives me so much energy. I mean, like I'm dialed.
Hey
everybody, welcome to Bass University Live. Matt's loving our high-tech signal system that we have.
I think Riz gave you that means go. Right?
That means go. That means go. That's the old Dean's point. That means go. But hey, welcome to the show. We are live from the Bassmaster Open on the James River. We're back again this year doing lives from the Opens. And I'm thrilled to have my buddy here, Matt Pangrac. A lot of you guys know him from BTL and a longtime friend. And you're out here getting after it at the Opens. I appreciate you being here, man.
I am. Last time we were at the James River, I remember you walked past me last year and you gave me a little bit of title advice. And I love the river. I love it. I appreciate that. You actually in the video that we ran on BTL for 5 minutes, giving some gems on title advice since you have cashed a few checks on title fisheries in your day. You got a trophy on a title fishery, don't you?
I got a trophy on the Hudson River, and
that's title.
Yeah, it seems like I had another one, but no, that's it.
Yeah.
Hudson, yeah.
So anyway, when they were like, "Hey, you want to jump on Bass U?" I was like, "Well, I mean, I fished the James River last year. I'm a tide fishing expert now. Yeah, let's do it."
Was that the first time?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the first title fishery.
Yeah, I see. I'm the other way, right? Reservoirs. First time I sat the boat in a reservoir, I was like, "Why isn't the water moving? It's staying at the same level. Is it?"
That's the I practice with the guys at Cohen, and he's from Virginia, and he's like, "I don't see how you guys do it in the lakes." He's like, "Those fish could just swim anywhere." He's like, "And the level stays the same, and it's just they're just in a big giant hole."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "It's a little bit different than that." But yeah, he's like, "It's like super predictable here."
It is
the whole life cycle.
You call the dam generation schedule. We used to have to call back in the day, back in the 1700s when I started, and they'd come on with the audio and. 50,000 CFSs coming out of the dam, and you're trying to, figure out how to interpret that and how it's going to.
I guess it's the same thing. The exact same thing, flow and tide. I mean, just in different, it affects them differently, but both play a critical role.
Because I was thinking, except for you can't count on it on the reservoir, right? Because the dam they can change it at a moment's notice. But the same thing can happen here, like on the James. The wind blows out of the south. Guess what? It'll stack that water up.
What day of practice was that? The first full day, Sunday, it was like that.
It was stacked up.
Yeah.
And if it blows out of north, it'll blow it out,
yeah.
And then it'll change. The wind will change everything on the tides. So you gotta certainly account for that.
Southwest at 10 to 20.
It's gonna make it a fun boat ride. Is what it's going to do.
This place gets a lot rougher than I realized.
Well, you know what? It's going to be southwest. So a lot of the river, as I'm sitting here trying to get the direction because the river kind of runs southeast, sort of. So if the wind's coming southwest, it's going to be blocked by that west wind, and you'll be okay. We'll all be okay making those long runs because a lot of us are making that 70-mile boat ride. And it's big. It's pretty wide. It's like 5 miles wide at parts.
Yeah, I did. I practiced in the same section, and then today the plan was let's go explore. And about 20 minutes in, I was like, why did I choose to explore, like with 1 day of practice left, lower units are not like very readily available, and neither are props at this time. So I made a couple poor life decisions and then realized we're just going to pull out and go back to where I think I can get some bites.
Did you hit something?
No, but I mean, I saw some stuff that I could hit.
Yeah. Well, see, I had my partner, Brooks Parker. Happy 18th birthday, by the way, Brooks.
Woo.
You're 18? Happy birthday.
Yeah.
We got a solid sunburn to go for your 18th birthday. He got you some aloe vera. Rub it on you after BU's over.
Well, I had Brooks in charge of like monitoring so I wouldn't hit rocks or jetties or anything gnarly, and he was unsuccessful.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. We made contact.
At what rate of speed?
Oh, I was at idle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
no, I was in one area and there's a boat fishing, and all of a sudden he starts yelling, and I like look over and I'm like, oh hey, and he's like, no, go right. Apparently there was a barge directly in front of me with fast idle that I was going to be right, and those things are like nasty.
Yeah.
Wood and metal, so I narrowly inverted that by about 10 feet and went over and thanked him.
Oh, that's great that you were able to take that message. Did you ever try to wave somebody off and they didn't get the message? Like they think you were waving at them?
Yeah.
Like, hey, they say hello and then they run right into it. But hey, we have we're going to be talking about the Open here on the James River. Where you guys, anybody has any questions for me or Matt? We use your question on the air. We're going to hook you up with something really cool, like we always do at Bash U. And of course, we got Riz in studio who got us up and running on time. And man, you've been a world traveler, Riz. You're just fresh back from the Elite.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. Just to clarify for everybody out there, I was not fishing the Elite. I was just there, there working. But we actually had 2 awesome shoots this past week, guys, for what's going to be getting released out on Bash U TV. We worked with Jesse Wiggins down on Smith Lake, Alabama. And when you want to talk about a guy putting the beat down on him, good gosh, it might have been a record for most fish catches on camera. I mean, he absolutely throttled him, and the instruction that he did was absolutely outstanding. The spotted bass down there can sometimes be a trick of their own, and Jesse just absolutely unlocked the key patterns to how to get bites for the day, and he shared all that with us. So that'll all be coming out on Bash U TV real soon. I think we released the spotted bass spawning pattern today, and there'll be a few more to follow. And then we also, Pete, we worked with Dollar Bill Lowen over on Monday, and that was a treat to get into the boat with him and see how he breaks down a lake and puts his patterns together. And so that'll all be stuff coming out. It's gonna be dropping on Bash U TV soon. Guys, if you're not signed up, now's a great time to try out the program. 30 days for free. You get unlimited access to the entire Bash University program. That's over 1,000 videos with one goal in mind: to help you catch more fish. As always on the Bash University Live, we're going to be giving some stuff away tonight. We have a $75 sponsor pack. All the sponsors that we work with here at the Bash University. We're putting together a Tackle Direct tackle pack brought to you by Tackle Direct. And also, we're going to have a Facebook like and share going out the door tonight. That's also going to be a $50 sponsor pack headed out to somebody on the Facebook airwave. So, guys, if you're not signed up, now's a great time to get involved. Sign up, take a 30-day free trial. You get all the access that a paying member would get on Bash U TV, but you get to try it out for 30 days free.
Outstanding. And, we got so much coming. Can't wait to see all the great content. I heard clips of the Bill Lowen stuff, and Bill, he catches limits more than anybody else on tour. He will 12 pounds you to death.
That's how you get to $1 million.
That's right. And
that's a lot of checks.
We love him. He's one of our most viewed seminar speakers, and I think that's part of it, right? Because he's uber successful and consistent, but he's just very genuine in his delivery and his teaching, such that you really get it. You know what I mean? When you're watching him teach. So can't wait to get that to you guys, and we'll have that all real soon, and as well as the Jesse Wiggins stuff and a lot more coming at Bash U TV. And Alex, how are you, buddy? It's good to have you with us tonight.
I'm doing good, Pete. I'm excited to hear from you guys, hear how that open setting up, and definitely learn a little bit more about tidal fisheries. That's something I've never experienced before, so excited to get you guys' insight on that. And we got people already chiming in on both sides of the message board, so I have some good questions for you here in a bit once you're ready for them.
Let's hear one.
So the first one, this is a good quick one to do. Frank wants to know, what phase are the fish in right now in the James River, Pete?
They are in a state of confusion. They're actually what I think is happening. And it's really wild because down at Chickamauga, where the elites were just they were on the throes of the spawn, but it wasn't a spawn. It was like backed off, like they're waiting. It seems like the fish there wait for the lake to come up to full pool before they commit to the spawn, and that's. What, 500 miles south of here?
Yeah. It's weird on those lakes that fluctuate a lot. Like it was kind of the same on Cherokee in the last open. Is the fish, I don't know how they sense it, but they sense something's going on with the water and they like wait till it stabilizes. Would you not agree?
I do agree. I think it's like genetics. I was talking with Brooks about that today, that, these fish, I think they're a lot like salmon, where wherever they're born, wherever they're mother and father spawn them is the area that they go back to spawn.
I never heard that with that. That's a good theory.
Because
interesting.
The survival of the species is dependent upon
That
it.
you can't have them all spawn in the same spot, so they have to be spread out around.
Right. Or if they spawn out in the salt water where there's current and all the eggs die, right, the species is going to get eliminated, right? So they have to find these really good hard bottom, stable areas where they spawn, and I think the fish, will, come back to that. That's I don't have any tagging studies on that. That's my theory. I think they operate a lot like salmon do.
I mean, if you look at like tournament results over the years, like there's definitely certain areas and certain sections of the lake that year in year out for seasonal patterns, they just continue to outperform other sections of the lake. And like you can run down any body of water and look at an area and be like, damn, that looks really good for them to spawn, and make 100,000 casts in there and not catch a fish because there ain't none there. But you get in the right one and they're all there.
They're all, somehow they got the message. But the deal is, as far as what's going on, what I've seen, I'm interested. I want to ask Matt what he thinks, but I find them starting to spawn. We have a full moon coming on Saturday. The main river water temperature, and that's my key, is not what the backwater temperature is, but what the main body of water temperature is. Once that starts sniffing 60 degrees, things start happening, and we're seeing that. I'm seeing 60, 61 in places, and I think we're going to see the first spawn take place. I think it's going to be pre-spawn, spawn action down here on the river. That's what I think's going on. What do you think?
I agree. Boat had a lot of pollen on it this morning when I went to launch it. Had to clean the grass off for that. I think the pads and the grass has grown probably, it looks like 3 or 4 inches in the last 48 hours. It's unbelievable how, you look at it on low tide and you can see a little bit under the water, and then today you're like, there's grass lines.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and how electric green and bright it is that shows it's fresh. And I agree with that 60 degree number. And then I caught a couple today at fish that were just a little bit different color than I caught earlier in the week, and that tells me that there were probably some fresh fish that just pulled up.
Yeah. Well, for me, the big indicator was the abundance of 4 to 6 pounders that I've been catching. I noticed the tails on those guys are warm, but no, I'm just
Have you caught any bloody fish? I have not.
I haven't seen any, but I've seen a lot that look like half their eggs were gone. Right, you know what I mean? Their bellies were shrinking a little bit.
At least you're catching females then.
Yeah, I saw. I had one day that I had 5 females.
Man, dang 4 to 6 pounders. You're such a pest. I just can't keep them off my stuff.
They're hard to take off. Those big ones like that. But a lot of it is, man, oh man, the females are always tricky to bite when you can't look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so tricky on a tidal body to be able to see them, because at most in clear water, you have a window of maybe 2 hours around low tide where you can visibly see them spawning.
Yeah, I went up and tried to look at what I thought was a bed, and I think I could see the bed, and it was at low tide today, but it was still like sketchy.
Yeah.
At best. It's not super clean this year because I think, and the reason is because the grass isn't up to filter it.
That's true. I think you're right. Yeah, the grass is just in its infancy, and the pads are just starting to come up. But it was crazy because I got here early because I haven't fished since November of last year. So
it takes a day or two to get into it.
It really does. I'm like, man, I want to go, and I want to put a little extra time in, and make sure that everyththing's operating on the boat. You know what I mean? Putting it through its paces too.
Trolling motor's not wired backwards. One of those deals.
Yeah. But everything was functional. But anyway, we're on Saturday. I mean, I'm in my ice fishing parka.
Yeah, it's cold.
Bibs. I mean, it's freezing out there. But the water temperature was so it must have been warm.
Warm and then cold.
And then got cold.
Warm it back up when you put them in a little bit of a funk.
Well, a lot of times, I remember we talk about this from time to time. The Dean Rojas record-setting bag occurred immediately following a cold blast. Cold blast, and then it jumped into 80 degrees for 3 days in a row, just like we're having this week. 3 days in a row, 80 degrees. So, will we be able to break Dean Rojas's record? 45 bag.
You want a 45-3 bag?
Maybe over 3 days.
Yeah. Hey, they catch 10-pounders here at the James. You get it's 45 pounds. You just need
45-2 is the record, so you need 45-3.
Yeah, I mean, there's 10-pounders there. You just got to catch 5 of those. It's why
easy
not,
enough.
right? Yeah.
Easy Pete.
Throw the big glide.
What else is cool about this place is really, and I find unique, is it's the only place I go to that we get to fish cypress trees.
Mm.
Do you fish them? I mean, they're in Louisiana.
Yeah, they're not really in Oklahoma, but I fished a bunch at Rayburn before.
Right.
I fished a number of tournaments at Rayburn, and I like to run up with a cypress at Rayburn and flip that. But no, they're really cool. I mean, you can kind of treat them a little bit like a break ball for a dock or just different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're really cool here.
They are.
There's like 4 or 5 different types. There's like slick ones. There's ones with knees that are out. There's ones that are mixed in with docks. There's ones that have a lot of knees around them. There's like 4 patterns within the patterns on these cypress trees.
That's true. I didn't think about it.
Yeah,
like that.
it's not just like cypress trees. There's all sorts of different. The way there's live ones. There's dead ones.
That's true too. There's ones that are in the current, and they're on the deeper edges of things. Not very many of those. And, a lot of them are in the ultra shallow stuff. And, I know it makes for great spawning habitat, or at least I'm assuming.
Yeah,
it does.
I would think so. I mean,
it's
got everything they need. My question is, do they just like let's say there's a 5-pounder on a cypress tree.
Mm-hmm.
Does that fish swim? I mean, I would assume that fish like swims around the cypress depending on the tide and the location and things. But like when it makes a bed, this is a question for you.
Yeah.
Where does a spawning bass on a tidal river make a bed on a cypress tree? Because it's hitting it on incoming, and then it's hitting it on the opposite side on outgoing, and then you have heavy shade on one and heavy shade on the other. Is there a specific, and that's what I haven't been able to figure out, specific part of the tree when you think they are spawning or making a bed that is better to hit on a cypress?
Here's an interesting thing, and we heard this. I don't know if on the Elite on Santa Cooper, and Hackney was blind fish in cypress trees for spawners, and he made the comment, and I agree with him, that the beds are off. They're not sitting on the knees, or they're not sitting on the trunk. They're a little bit off. They're next to it.
Okay.
And I've seen that. I saw that last year down here because we were here in June, and we were. Was it May? We had the remnants.
Later.
Yeah, we had the remnants. We had the remnants of the spawn. It was I thought it was later.
It might have been. It might have been. It was still early enough that it didn't suck.
It was May. You guys were there in May because I was there. It was the same week I was at Kerr.
Okay.
For the regional last year, and I remember that we were talking back and forth at that event. It was May 16th through the 18th.
Wow. Okay. About a month from now.
Yeah.
I was during that time. I was trying to figure out whether they were still what I was going to fish for spawn or post spawn.
Right.
And I went post. I went after the shad spawn, which was a terrible idea for me. I caught tons of fish, and they were blasting spinner baits, and it was a wall. But they just kept getting smaller. It seemed like they were still mixed in the spawn, I guess, But I remember. Well, I want to ask you about last year because you had a great comment. But back to the bed.
Yeah.
Like it seems like they can't have too much current, right? So it can't be blasted. So it's got to be on a tree that's somewhat not getting hit with a direct flow, either incoming or outgoing. And the closer you get to the dam, the less outgoing flow you're going to get. So anyway, it seems like they're in and around it when they make their beds.
So your ones that are in the direct current are feeding fish that are opportunistic based on the tide. The ones that are a little bit off and the more slack stuff, that's where you're more likely to get your bedding.
That's where that would be my guess.
Makes sense.
If you're counting your bites. But here, check this out. And this is interesting. On the river we fish, Delaware River, we have a 6 foot, sometimes 7 foot tide swing.
Wow.
Massive. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's
that's
crazy. Like looking up. It's crazy. So there's this one spot, and I go to, and this is why I think about it brings me back to where they come back to the same spot to make a nest. The tide at 3 feet, there's like a seawall that comes out. It's 3 feet underwater at high. Okay, it's 3 feet above the water level at low. But that seawall ponds water, right?
I got you.
It ponds water even when it's low tide. And there's this nest. It's always there. Every spring I go there, it's always there. And the nest is on top of the seawall. And when, so here's the nest up here, and then here's the water level. It's 3 feet low. There is no fish. There is no guarding bass on that nest. He guards, it patrols the outside.
And what, just jumps up there? Something messes with
like a bird.
I got you. And then he jumps back down.
He's got weapons. I don't know.
Switchblades.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when the tide comes up and floods it again, he just jumps right back on. And guards it. So
you're thinking that's got to be the same fish that has found the perfect scenario.
Yeah. With the exception of birds coming along to eat his eggs, the bluegills are no threat at that. But I'm thinking about that here. Like, do they do the same thing? Because those cypress get dirt shallow. Yeah. At dead low. There's this much water, out in and around.
I just assume they back up and they just sit there and watch it.
Yeah. I think they do the same thing.
I'd love to ask a biologist how long the nest or the eggs could stay out of water.
I would say probably my guess would be no time out of water, right? They gotta have water on them.
So that's where that fish knows what the tide is to where on low tide it's still wet.
Yep. And even and they even maybe have to prepare for the blowout lows.
So how much water is on that seawall then at low? Because the way you were describing it made it sound like the water dropped all the way down off of it.
It does. It does. That's what I'm describing. It drops 3 feet.
So the water line is down here. Then you've got a seawall here, and there's
there's a
plateau, and
nest.
there's a bed up here.
There's a bed up there with eggs on it.
And then the tide comes up, and then it goes.
So
up.
it's literally it's out of the water.
It's a ledge.
It's above the water level, but that whole it puddles.
You got to take a
gotcha.
Like it holds too much water over the nest.
That's crazy.
It is insane. We're gonna go back and
you got to do it. Yeah, you got to do a video of that for Bass U.
Yeah, When Nate's coming down
I
next
don't
week,
break wall
Chris,
bed fishing with the deep.
advanced tutorial.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be one other person in the country who's ever in a situation to catch them like that. But unique. But that's what I'm thinking. You know, what they do here, they might do the same thing, and back off a little bit. But they get incredibly difficult to catch. You know, especially the big girls do when they're in that situation. So I don't know. I heard. Shout out to Five Alive Bassmasters. They were down here, and I can't see that sign, Rich, but I see you trying to hold a sign up.
Oh,
Nope,
nothing.
And we love those guys, and a lot of those guys are Bass U members down here with like 50 boats, and the winner had 20 plus pounds a day this past weekend. So they set the bar pretty high for us.
Yeah, that's true. That's a 4 pound average for those counting at home.
Yeah. 4 plus.
Yeah.
We don't see that, right? Like, what did Brandon had a big bag one day?
Yeah, I think he had 50 something.
Right. It's so hard to do. Like, typically when we come here in the summer, it's like 12 pounds a day and you're a hero. You know?
I think it just gets blasted so hard with 230 boats on it.
Yeah.
I mean, blasted.
It does
I don't
get
know
blasted.
if you've experienced that. But
Yeah. Well, the locals fish here. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Like the people that live around the James River, man, they've got boats and they use them. I was up a creek today, and there was 2, local guys just out fishing in a tiny little creek, and that's what you see. So yeah, these fish get a little bit of fishing pressure. Add to it 230 boat field, and it's quite a challenge to do well in these things.
it is.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. So one more question then, in your opinion, do you think, especially this time of the year, each tide cycle brings new fish up? So like if you're fishing a row of docks, a row of cypress, a grass line, whatever it is, you go there the next day. It seems to me like there's a lot of, if you're going down and you know that 10 boats have gone down and you're still getting bites on it, I mean, there's got to be fresh fish every tide cycle that are kind of coming up and utilizing it.
And I think under the conditions that we're enjoying down here right now,
I think there's a lot of fresh fish moving around.
I think you have a population that's on the move, and like I was talking with Works of Practice, places where we get 1 or 2 bites today, we may see twice that.
That's what I'm counting on.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I keep saying it's gonna happen.
Minus the fishing pressure.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big one, right? If nobody else was in the tournament, I think I could catch a fair amount of fish.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
It would be. When we leave, the locals are going to have a field day down here. But
is your event Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
Yep. It is.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And it's a big unknown. Even though the population, I think, is probably moving towards the spawn and increasing its presence in those areas. You saw it. I practice. It's a revolving door. Anywhere that could possibly be a fish caught, there's been 10 boats there before you, and there will be 10 boats there after you've left. So they're looking at our baits. They're getting exposed to them, and it's just going to flat out make them harder to catch.
Yeah. David Walker said something to me one time. I was interviewing him before one of the classics at Grain, and I used to always ask, "Well, are you catching them?" And he said, "Well, that's not the right question." He said, "Because I'm fishing where I think the fish are going to be, not where they're at now." And I just thought, I've always kind of thought that, and this was 8-9 years ago that he said it, but I've always kind of kept that in the back of my head, practice where you think they're going to be, not where they're at now, which is really hard to do. That's what I think makes the best guys in the world, because they can figure out, where they're going to be and take 1 or 2 little cues and then roll with that going into the tournament with the changing conditions.
That is, because I think I agree. We call it like fishing the developing pattern.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most developing pattern I've ever seen. Like what happened today out there, like it was just whoa, everything's different than it was yesterday. Like visually, it felt different, it looked different, the watercolor was different, and the vegetation was different, the fish were positioned differently. I thought it was wild what happened in 24 hours. And I thought so.
You're right, and that grass grows fast, and the fish are going to move fast in this condition. But what will happen, and this is where I think a lot of tournaments get won, is guys will practice in an area and not catch them. And people have a tendency to compete in the places where they practice. And I know that, well, why would you compete in the place you didn't practice? But, like, if you caught them or didn't get any bites in a place, you're likely not going to be there during the tournament. But if you can get one or two clues, one or two bites in an area and anticipate that there's going to be a movement, or anticipate that maybe the weather conditions benefit you, whether it's cold front or warm front, and may double your bites or triple your bites in that area, you'll be ahead and you won't receive the pressure because other guys will have, tried and not caught them and bailed. So that developing pattern, man, I believe is the key to winning any tournament. I agree with David Walker and your discussion with him. You'll notice it with everybody that wins. That's what they're always looking for, and that's how they're catching them. So hopefully we can be on it this week.
That's the plan.
With minus 20 mile an hour winds and all that other stuff. But I'm psyched for it. But I remember last year you said like your best practice day ever.
Yeah, it was just I just had a freak day because I was a little not sketched out, but I didn't know what to expect with the title system and all that. And it's kind of cool when you're so new to a different type of fishery. You notice like you're trying to make it make sense, right? So it just so happened that my first bite was a big one. And then it made sense to me. And then everywhere else I stopped was identical to it. And I got a big bite there, too. They were big post-spawn fish, and they were on the – and I didn't know anything about the river, so I ran around and found 4 or 5 spots. Like at every one I stopped on, I caught a big one. I wasn't able to replicate it in the tournament, though. I mean, I had –
because of fishing pressure or –
execution primarily. I lost a couple, and we had a big bag in the boat. My Kongler did really well in that event. He had a 6 and a 5 behind me on day 2, and then I lost a couple. But I mean, it changed. It changed as that week went on, and I was fishing where I was committed, to that same pattern that was the first day of practice, which was a week before the tournament started, and something changed in there, and I was so kind of blind to any changes because it was so good on that first day when I set the hook. Well, then, obviously the rest of the week, every time you get one and don't set the hook, you're like, well, it's got to be a big one, especially in the current tide there. So I call up a lot of little ones.
Well, it's great body of water.
Yeah.
You had a great practice. One of the things that you talk about execution, and we suffered with it this week. Did you run into barnacle situation?
Oh yeah, it's brutal.
It is brutal.
I mean, it doesn't just break your line; it mangles your line, like mangles it.
Yep.
Like just frays it, destroys it. Doesn't matter if it's 10-pound test or 25-pound test or braid, fluoro, anything.
It just slices right through it.
Yep.
What's the deal with that, Pete? Why so much barnacle?
It's right near the brackish water line, and the barnacles are thriving here in the chip.
Right.
And they're unusually sharp.
Huh.
And I'm that same thing. Like, man, is it time of year that maybe they're growing or their shells are not growing, or they're
Does it seem like they're like more than the last few years, or what?
I didn't
There's
know.
barnacles on cypress. There's barnacles on dock post. There's barnacles on seawall. My only thought would be maybe if there's an X number of barnacles, and I know they like grow, but maybe as the tides go down and back, the current as the year progresses dulls the edges, and since they're so new right now, they're really sharp. That would be the only thing that I could think of.
That and the other thing that I could think, and I don't know because I haven't been, but if they had drought, the salt water line will creep up,
Right. Right.
and it will bring those barnacles right with it. And I don't know if that took place.
You catch any sheepshead?
Oh, I didn't. Did
Oh,
redfish?
redfish, pickled trout.
Drum.
We saw get caught, me and Brooks, but no, those zebras. I caught and somebody right now is telling a story about this giant that got away because I caught a fish that was that had broke off. The line was frayed up and it was a 1.5 pound fish. But somebody's telling a story.
Could be me.
About the great big one that got away, and that's that's a big unknown down here that's gonna break some hearts because I mean these giant Floridas get around those knees, man, and they will slice your line up big time. So, well, how heavy did you go on your line?
I mean, I was flipping 25.
And it just sliced through that.
Yeah. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
I mean, once it starts, it goes.
Yeah, I got 30, and I'm gonna go up to 30. I think to see
blow them over the gunnel. Set a hook and crank.
Or fish will be looking at me like
there's be flying over the boat on every hook set. You need help with that? I'll just boat flip his 8.
They'll be looking at that rope I'm throwing, and they're like, Pete, there's no way we're biting that fake lure with the rope tied to it.
You put a flat side crankbait on that, too. That's what he didn't tell you.
You might be onto something there. Start throwing a jerk bait on 30-pound fluoro. Get a whole different kind of action out of that bait.
I mean, Hank throws 16. Why not 30?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Just deaden the action. Be good to go.
Hey, what we're going to do is, and we're going to take a break here in just a minute, but when we come back, I want to talk about and talk to you guys that are watching, but I want to talk about how to win or the challenges of a big field, like a 200 boat field, how to overcome that, how to overcome the fishing pressure, things you've learned, things that I've learned over the years on how to deal with that, because it's tricky. It's not just about finding the right pattern. There's a lot more that can get involved with trying to win one of those things. Brooks, can you come over here for a second? Yeah. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back, but I just wanted to, Brooks has had a cameo appearance on our show before.
Brooks,
18th birthday, buddy.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Thank you.
And Brooks, wait a minute. You're going on a scholarship to fish in Alabama. Tell us about your school and where you're going to be competing next year.
Shoot, I don't really know where I'm going to be next year. I know they go all over. The school I'm going to is in Alabama. It's a little school. It's called University of Montevallo.
Clint Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where he went?
Yeah, Clint Davis. He was the rookie of the year on the FLW tour.
Yeah. Yep. He's a Bass University instructor as well. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be going there. It's by Lay Lake in Alabama.
Yep.
And the schedule's not out yet.
No, not yet. Not for next year.
Okay.
So I have no idea where I'm going to go, but I don't know. It might be all over the place.
Well, keep us posted. We're gonna be talking about the schedule online or on the show, and we're gonna follow you and root for you. And wish you the best. Now that you're a man, he showed up to practice a boy. He's leaving a man. Yeah. I love it. Well, happy birthday again, and we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna talk to you guys about the complexities of a big giant field, how you can win those tournaments. We'll be right back after this message. Here you go, Brooks.
AquaView, the leader in underwater viewing technology. find what you are looking for. Catch more fish. Have more fun. AquaView. Seeing is believing.
Why do you love casting fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA.
Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out doing a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
On the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Up in the Great Lakes. Hey everybody, welcome back. And Matt, we were always having a show behind the scenes, but the great point came up because we were talking about dealing with these zebras again and the techniques that you were using, and you brought up the fact that a drop shot, the abrasion is going to be on the leader
For the most part, yeah.
which is going to hopefully help you land more fish.
Yeah. Less above the hook, more below the hook, because you can handle a 1/4 3/8 ounce tungsten.
Right.
I mean, I'd rather lose that than the whole bait and the fish.
Like $5 a pop, then.
Yeah.
But that's what we do with the Great Lakes, right? Because the zebras and the tubes that we all used to fish,
you break them off.
Get it on the knot, the abrasion, break the fish off. Yep. Drop shot, strike to catch is way better. Might be way better here on the here on the zebra or the what do they call it?
I just forgot too.
Barnacles.
I love it. I've lost my train of thought now. Like
It gets light at 6:30 and it gets dark at 8, so we're to those long days. I mean, it's not like up north when it's like light at 5 and dark at 10, and you're like, holy cow! I just spent 31 hours on the water the last 2 days.
Yeah, right. That's what the longer and the more we get into summer, the longer the days get, the harder it gets. But you're a trooper, man. You're fishing. This is your second year fishing all the opens. Matt, you're fishing what, 12 tournaments?
9.
9.
Yeah, 3 in each division.
I can't add either.
3, 6, 9. Yeah.
So you did 9 last year, and you did well.
I mean, I didn't do poorly. I would have liked to have done better.
Would you finish 10th in the standings?
6th overall.
6th overall. Yeah. That's phenomenal.
And I mean, 3 more would have been phenomenal.
Right?
The goal is to in the top 3, but yeah, fished all of them. But I mean, it's got a lot of experience under my belt because before, if you just fished one division, it would take 3 years to get that much of experience in the. And then there was 4 the year before, so I kind of crammed 6 or 7 years of opens into the last 2.5 years.
How many have you fished so far this year?
This is the third one.
Okay, so you're just getting started.
Yeah. They kind of put them all like in April. And then there's July and like September, October. There's like kind of 3 clusters. There was like an outlier in Florida and then one in July that's kind of an outlier on Oneida. For the next Northern, over the 4th of July on Oneida, we'll be flipping antique ships as they go up and down the lake with 9 million ski boats.
Oh, that's going to be on the holiday, isn't it?
Yeah, so the 4th of July is Monday.
Yeah.
So then we just get Tuesday and a couple hours on Wednesday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is a
goat
roper. It's gonna be something.
Oh man!
And everybody up in New York takes their boat out on 4th of July.
Yeah.
Like if you have a boat and you're in New York, you've been like cooped
waiting.
up all year.
Yeah.
Like that is the time to break it out.
Hey, we saw it today in Virginia. We saw everybody break the boats out today. Jet skiers were
They're
out.
all really friendly,
Water
though. Have you
skiers.
noticed that? They're all, hey, how are
they
you
are.
doing? You know,
Love that about coming here.
super nice people on the water.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree. Love being here. I just want to give you credit and props because it was one of the funnest, most excited I've ever seen you or anybody really was on Thousand Islands last season. You pulled a rabbit out of a hat. You were having a day, and if things were unwinding, and you made a call and put 20 plus pounds in the boat, like boom, and you were like shot out of a cannon.
Honestly, that was listening to my co-angler. My co-angler, you know how when you drift on Thousand Islands, your co-angler's bait actually goes past the fish before the boaters.
Yes, yeah.
Key, if you are subscribed to Bass U and want to fish a Toyota Series or Open or BFL as a co-angler, Thousand Islands during the summer is probably the top one you would want to sign up for. Right. You have just as much, if not more, chance of catching them than your boater does, except, unless it's like a spawn deal.
Right.
But
sure.
It's
anybody's fish.
He had, I'd had 21 pounds the day before and caught 4 19-pound limits with a drop shot with a 3-foot leader. And he caught 3 good ones, and he said, hey, man, like he understood how it worked. And then he started dragging a jig and a Ned. Well, I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but he catches a 5, and then he catches another 5. And with like 45 minutes left, I've got 3 for 8, and he catches a 4 3/4. That gives him like 3 for right around 15. And he said, hey, man, you want one of these or whatever? And I said, did you catch that last one on a jig? He said, yes. Did you catch the last one on a Ned? He said, yeah. And I said, those suckers are on the bottom. I said, I've been drifting over them with this drop shot. So I put a net on. I made 3 drifts, and I had 3 for 8 little ones, right? And I caught a 3 3/4, a 468, and a 6.6 on my last drift. And if I had another hour to do it, but
got rid of those.
Yeah, it was just working with the work, taking a clue from someone that you're with and not being like, oh, I know what I'm doing. So,
yeah, well, that's a lot.
6.6 on the last cast was that was my personal best smallmouth ever. That the biggest one I'd ever caught. That's to catch awesome. It in the last 5 minutes.
You could see it in your eyes. You were lit up like a candle.
It was
so fun to talk to you after that. And,
it was a good time.
Yeah, that was good stuff. But keeping an open mind, man. This is my philosophy on it is I don't care where the intel comes from. If I'm able to use it in an event, whether it's my co-angler, whether it's watching birds on the bank, whether it's picking up something off my sonar, if there's watching other guys, like, you see a guy burn by you with a spinnerbait and starts, that's intel. That's
Have you done that in practice this week where you see a bank that has a bunch of boats on it, like 3 or 4 boats on it, and it looks right and it feels right, and you say, okay, I'm going to get in line, I'm going to go behind these guys and see if I can shake some fish off? I've done that a couple of times this week, and it just gives you confidence, like, okay, I'm doing something that, because I know it's going to be like that in the tournament, and instead of being spun out going, oh, there's 3 boats on this bank, if you get in line, do the thing, that you can still get bit.
It can do 2 things for you, right? Like there's 2 reasons for it, in my opinion. Either you're doing something that's unique, right, to get the bites, or even better or more important is there's an abundance of fish.
Yeah.
Right? So if those guys are fish through there and there's still bites to be had, there's an abundance of fish. And that, to me, they're both great pieces of helpful information, But and you're gonna see that. Glad you brought that up, because that's what we want to talk a little bit about is the pressure. There's no escaping it in this, and especially like you said, the grass beds and the pad fields aren't as extensive as they will be in a month from now. Anglers are going to be crawling all over each other. How do you handle fishing pressure? What are some things that you can do to offset and try to be successful with all this fishing pressure? And there's a couple things, like you said, that I think the first, there's so many. I think strategy is the most important thing when it comes to dealing with massive amounts of fishing pressure, like we're going to have in this event. it's to me, it's more important than the pattern. You know, like the fish are trying to spawn. Yeah, we know that, but you know, how are you going to be able to fish an area where nobody else is fishing, or find a place where they might be doing it that is overlooked? Because it's you know, fishing in a crowd like this. I mean, in order to win one of these events, I think you've got to be able to you either got to be doing something incredibly different and unique, or you've got to find an area or something that other people have missed. I think they're the two most important things, you know, because George Cochran, I love him. I talk about him all the time. He's one of the greatest that ever did it. Says, what's the most important thing in tournament fishing to account for? Fishing pressure. That's the number one thing. And we got it here. So being able to do, you know, some things that are unique is definitely going to be a factor. Here in this tournament, what do you think? We have two main bodies of water, right? We have the James River proper, and we have a river called the Chickahominy, and with a couple rivers in between. How many do you think will be in the Chickahominy River? 100 boats?
No, I think the whole the system as a whole is fishing really good. I think probably 75 to 100 boats will make that run to the Chick. But I also think that there's some other areas that will actually draw some boats. I think there'll be less in the Chick than there were last time.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of vegetation last time that brought a lot of people down, and I think the, like you said, the backwaters are warmer in the backs of those rivers and stuff, and I think it's just not my style personally, but I'm hoping that pulls a bunch of guys to go catch like river, you know, gnarly, nasty river, run into the stuff, get in the back, flip the lay downs, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that'll definitely play this time.
So you think this year will be spread out?
I think so.
Interesting.
You don't?
No. I mean, it's always seemed to be like a 60-40 split where they run to the Chick, because the Chick is where the 60% of the tournaments are won.
Yeah, I still think there'll be 75 to 100 boats in the Chick.
Yeah, which is not quite half of our field. But I think it's also, with this warming trend, it opens up all the possibilities of all the other little bodies of water that are in between that don't get near the fishing pressure.
I was thinking about this today. I think only 4 out of the top 10 will come out of the Chick.
Oh, less than half?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that just because there's so many guys in there splitting the fish up, or what?
So many little ones in the Chick right now. I think it's easier to get a bigger bite somewhere else in the river.
Right.
And you get two big bites in another creek, and that accounts for a bunch of 2 3/4 and 3 pounders in the Chick.
Right.
Is my thought process on it.
Well, and you know, I'll be honest, the people that I've talked to, that I've run into on the water, everybody's complaining, no matter where I go.
Well, that doesn't matter. You could be catching 30 pounds a day, and
That's
they're
true.
complaining you don't catch 35.
That's true.
Well, you're going to fish a bank past them and say, how's it going? And they're like, he's blasting them on this thing.
Just caught 4
3,
pounders
4,
down
5, you
this
should
straight
definitely
road.
come back down this road.
You need to pick up a black and blue jig and throw it to the
Do you not do that? Like, you know, there's someone in your area that's on your pattern, you've seen them, and they're like, well, how's it going? And you're like, I don't know, something's off today. Something's a little different. We got a couple runs. I got one decent one. You've got like a 5 and 2 4s in the box, and you're trying to make them think, oh, okay, I need to run something different. So you can do two things. You can either do that, or you can be like, dude, yeah, I got them. Those are the 2 things you can do.
So don't believe what Matt tells you when you run into him.
And I'm not going to say none.
That's the truth, right? Disinformation is part of the game.
It's not lying.
Doc talk is always one that, you know, gets you, right?
Yeah. But you think it'll be made more a lot of Chick.
I think it always is, you know.
But it always holds up to it.
It does. There's a lot of fish there. You can catch fish on any type of habitat down there. There's a lot of the pads, surprising to me. I didn't think they'd be up.
They weren't yesterday. 2 days ago, you could go and you could see them, and you could be like, "Oh, look at their cute little pads," and now they're just like boom everywhere.
Yeah, they're up, or up enough. I should say. You know, they're
up
not,
on low tide.
They're not fully matured, but they're up. So it'll be interesting.
Someone will catch a run with something through that.
The pads.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Someone will catch them running something through those new pads.
And there's also grass. There's looks like kind of a hydrilla,
but it's
hybrid.
But it's not crispy.
It's
but
not.
It stands out more than milfoil.
Yes. Yep.
Did you notice that too? I was trying to figure out. It was like a hybrid milfoil.
That's what I'm calling it, some kind of hybrid, and it exists down there. It'll likely be a fact. Grass is always a factor this time of year. Yep. Yeah, that's it.
And then there's
it'll top out later in the year.
There's the black stuff, but it's a type of grass, I thought.
That's the moss. We call it Black Death.
Okay. Well, it's not slimy or anything.
No, it's hard. It's like hair. It's hard to get off your bait.
Do they get in that stuff?
It's funny. They will use it for a couple different reasons, but the heat that comes off of that black bottom at times, depending on where it's at, it can.
It's like different types of rock.
Yeah,
different colors of rock.
It can bring fish in the early season, and we've seen fish use it.
You're gonna hear that. You're gonna hear that come up a lot in Lowen seminars that we're gonna be putting out in the next few weeks. Is the casting to dark spots. Little teaser there for you guys. Casting to dark spots and why they are so key. It's not necessarily even a hard piece of habitat. Could just be a spot on the bottom where the mud's darker. Cast to it.
Interesting. Well, that's the flip side of it is the spawn, right? Everybody looks for the glowing white beds, but a lot of times those beds are dark. They put them on a dark bottom, so it's going to be one way or the other. Be interesting. But Alex, I want to throw it to you. Do we have some questions from our group?
We sure do, Pete. There's been a lot of questions flying in on both sides. So I want to thank everyone for sending those questions in. And the first one we'll go to here is from Joe V. And what Joe wants to know from the both of you guys is, what do you think makes a good spawning area on tidal fisheries?
Go ahead and take that, because I was the one who was just asking you what you thought about that.
Well, the bottom is key, and bottom hardness is definitely key. Got to hold water at low tide. That's another key. Just like my bulkhead story, even though that's
not directly in the current, not directly in
it. Low flow, right? Doesn't have to be no flow, but it has to be low flow. Good bottom, holds water at low tide. Those are, in my quick answer there, those are three of the most important things. And I've seen them bed on shell, like shell bars or mussel bars. I've seen them. A lot of man-made habitat on these river systems are a big deal.
You mentioned that. I've noticed that where I've gotten some bites this weekend and last year as well. Do you feel like on a tidal system, vertical cover draws spawning fish more so than on a reservoir? Like a seawall, a dock post, a cypress. It seems like there's something vertical around where they're.
I 100% agree that they're going to hunt for that vertical stuff. And is it because of the tides? I don't know. Is it more so on tides than a reservoir? I don't know. But they definitely they want to have that that vertical. And we'll see it like on the man-made stuff. Like you'll go in like the natural bays, and they're silted in and they're mud, and then you have like a dredged out man-made area that's all gravel and hard bottom, and it might silt in the mouth, but you get back into it and it goes down and holds depth at low tide and makes for good spawning habitat. And here's cypress trees, no doubt about it. Cypress trees are a big deal. Lily pad roots are a big time spawning habitat. We saw that on the James River. Brian New, who won blind fishing for bedders on the St. John's last year before in that tidal river system there. But the pad stems are fat. If you've seen the lily pad root systems, not the stem, but the roots, they're big and they get white. like when you'll see bass, clean them off, you'll be going through a black mucky bottom, and you'll see those white roots, and they'll put their beds right down there. And, so great question. But there's a variety of different habitat here where we're fishing. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be gravel. It's going to be cypress trees. It's going to be blowdown trees, and maybe in the lily pads too. And docks. Bass love. Here's something that's cool that I use when I'm fishing docks for spawners is the key. Usually when you're fishing docks, you're flipping in the shade, right?
And you can't.
Right.
They need the sun.
They need the sun. So you got to flip to the sun-washed side of whatever you're fishing. Whether it's a cypress neat or it's a dock piling, that's where they're going to be. They're not going to be put in the shade. And here's something else. Like in the morning, the shade will be on one side, but the afternoon sun, I think, is more
warmer
for a bed. So you want stuff that's getting the afternoon sun.
Springtime sunburn.
Springtime sunburn.
Yeah.
Well said.
Everybody knows it. I mean, it's like, sun pops up over the trees first thing in the morning. You're still cold as hell, but by 2 or 3 o'clock, when the sun's been beating on the back of your neck for 3 hours, you're like, damn, I should have put on a buff, because it's, the UVs are a little bit different there. And that's a timing thing. And I got a question I want to bring in here from our message board. Frank wants to know, on a tidal body of water, you want an early boat draw or do you want a late boat draw?
Yes, is the answer to that question.
Which one do you want? And you can go in depth. You can, relate it back to the tides. If you got this tide, that tide, whatever. But
early, give me late. I don't. Well, in a multi-day tournament, give me at least 1 day early, and 1 day late. And I'll tell there's reasons why the late bite, the late stuff is great because you get that afternoon sun. You get maximum fish movement that you can capitalize on in that long day to do it. And if you get 1 day late, that means you're going to be 1 day early. And early is great too this time of year, because if you find an area where they are concentrated and like colony spawning, being able to get there first is huge. In a single day tournament, it really depends, right? Like if it's a tournament where it's early season and it's cold and the water's just starting to warm, I almost always want a late flight. You know what I mean? To be able to capture that afternoon stuff.
Let me ask you this. In the opens with the staggered flights, like I know, like, so in like local stuff, like if it's a 100-boat tournament in a local event, boat number 1 and boat number 100 may be split up by like, I don't know, 20 minutes on takeoff. Yeah. But if I'm boat number 100, I'm getting an extra 220 on the end of the day as far as my fishing time goes. How does that stack up in the opens? Like, does it correlate back? Does everybody get a true 9-hour day, or how does it work?
45 minutes to take it off. 45 minutes to an hour to do all 220 boats. I mean, they skip them if there's boats. If they're like, boat 8, where's boat 8? Okay, boat 9. And then when boat 8 gets it, he'll sneak in line. But yeah, you get a much longer day if you're a later flight. But like I said, everyone fishes a day, so it's flip-flop. So it's reverse the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, if you guys have never fished a multi-day tournament, that's the deal. If you're boat 1 on day 1, you're going to be last boat on day 2.
Yeah.
Because what I don't want is the dreaded middle of the pack draw, especially in this time of year. I think it's most important this time of year because you need that early one day and you need that long day. But middle of the pack means you're never going to be first anywhere and you're never going to have a long day.
Yeah.
So you're just handicapped a little bit, So that's a great question, man. But I love that. I love being early or late. Depending on the conditions. And, like I said, right now, fish are clamoring. They're going to be tight together. I can think of a lot of places that I would want to start and get a good boat draw in this tournament. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it all plays out. But great question.
It won't hurt my feelings because I'm catching them on an incoming tide the best, and if I get boat number 1, by the time I get where I'm going, it'll be low tide still. So I don't expect it to pick up for the first couple hours. So I wouldn't mind being middle of the pack, but then it moves an hour the next day. So I was thinking of that. So then, like, if I'm boat 1, then I have to be back early. So I have to leave early when the tide is just getting right and switching, and then I don't know if I can catch them for the first hour. So I don't want to like waste that time. So it would work one way or the other. Like, I would rather almost be like late and early, because then if you think about it, you get there when they're biting late. You just hope you can get in a rotation, a good rotation. And then the second day with the tide an hour, it's still starting to income, and then you can start on the juice. And there's, with an 80-degree day, more fish are moving up. So ideally, that would be my scenario this tournament.
You want late first.
I'd like to be like late first day, early the second day.
Yes.
Because that way I think I can maximize my tide.
Your tides, yep.
Does that make sense?
It does. Because Riz, remember this at the Ike Foundation tournament where the guys that won it were the last flight.
Yeah. In a single day, if anybody's watching that's doing the single day thing, or you're even somebody that's just learning a tide, you're learning to fish tidal water, get in that last flight. Give yourself as long a day as possible, because, like, if you can see both sides of a tide swing, and you have the longest day, because on a tidal body water, things are constantly changing. Like, you can go from 0 to hero like that. You pull up on one grass line and you get right in a hurry. Give yourself the longest day if you have the choice. Obviously in the opens, like, you guys get assigned your number, but a lot of the single day events, these guys have the option to sign up either first or sign up last. And if you're wanting to learn how to tidal fish, give yourself the longest day possible. See as many tide swings as you can, because then you'll start to kind of dial things in. Like, oh, I'm getting bit way better on a third of a tide on the incoming. So
I got one that kind of piggybacks on what you said, Riz, and I got to give Pete credit for this too, because he talked to me last year. I'll be honest, I fished a dozen days in my life on tidal fisheries. I'm from Oklahoma. I grew up in the middle of Illinois. These things scared the heck out of me when I first came down here, and I was like, how am I going to figure it out? And you made a good point. You said, this was, when I saw you at the boat ramp that morning, you said, don't worry about time of the day, that stuff. He said, worry about your tide.
Yeah.
And practice, like, if, stay out till dark if that's what's going to be the tide on it. But what I did, and it was like the second day I've been here, and I didn't even do it intentionally. It just happened that way, and it clicked in my head on tides. Because, it's incredibly complex. And I'm not saying by any means that I understand it, but I feel like I have a grasp of it. I'm comfortable with it right now, right? Like, it takes years and years and years to master the tides. You see the guys run the tides. You see what I could do, what you could do, what the guys who are familiar with these tides could do. I can't do that. Never will be able to, just because you don't have time on the water. But I got a good bite on a piece of cover that you could see the bottom on low tide, that was in 4 foot of water on high tide. And I kept going back to check it. But what I did was I saw the same piece of cover on all the different tides over the course of a day.
Nice.
I saw that cover on high tide. I saw that piece of cover on low tide. I saw that piece of cover on incoming tide and on outgoing tide. And I went back to that exact same thing. And I knew what was there because of on low tide and what it was and how it was affected and what the current looked like.
Yep.
And it happened, it was in an area I was fishing a stretch, and I kept going back there because I was trying to figure out when I could get bit on it. But at the end of that day, I was like, okay, now I kind of understand a full cycle and what a productive piece of cover goes through on all the different tides. And then it just kind of clicked in my head, and I was able to apply that throughout the river system.
That's awesome.
For the upcoming.
That's like the first piece to the puzzle there. Like, one of the cool things about tide is that you always have that you always have that one thing to base your plan or base your day off of, outside of crazy occurrences where, you get a blow in tide where the water never lows, or a blowout tide where it never comes up. You always know one thing in that day: the tide's going to come in and the tide's going to go out. So it's like you can almost simplify your fishing because you have one thing that for certain is going to happen. It's controlled by the moon. It's not changing. It's gonna happen to an extent. So that's juice stuff right there. Seeing that piece of cover on every tide swing is like,
yeah, like it's ripping past it one way sometimes, it's ripping past it the other, it's slack other times, and it's just like a whole different ecosystem around it at different times. And that's when it clicked, how important it was, how kind of dynamic the whole system was based on one immovable object.
So you caught a big fish off of that piece of cover, right? And this is what I want to know now, Pete. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Is that fish still there all throughout the tide, and it just doesn't want to eat, or does it move and does it come back at the optimal feeding time?
I in my opinion, I think a lot of times they leave. A lot of times because they have to leave, like especially areas where fish feed on high tide and they move in to capitalize on a current break or something that takes place on a higher tide. A lot of times that habitat's high and dry at low tide. So in that instance, they definitely leave. So I figure they do at other times as well. They've learned that, okay, I'm going to drift over to this dock piling when it's low, and then I'll meander back to the grass flat at high, and just go through that cycle when they're feeding. That's what I think happens. But the result is the same whether they leave or don't leave, Rich. Right? Because if they become inactive and I can't catch them,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But the one of the other things that I think is really key is developing a really good memory on what you're seeing, paying attention to what you see at low tide, because a lot of times they're the most magical places, and they're so subtle. It may be a tree limb that will become peaks out of the water at low, and then it floods at high, but you can fish all the lily pads and grass around it, or maybe the trees around it, but that one little piece that is sticking out there that is even too small for your sonar to pick up.
I'm thinking of one right now. I got on incoming. It was almost high tide, and I shook off what I felt was a really big one. So low tide today, I went right back to that. I'm kicking up mud. Got the sunglasses on. I'm standing up, and there is a white shell bed on the back corner of that cypress that is exactly where I got that bite. Now there was nothing there now, but I know when I go back Derby Day and wait for that tide to get high, there's where the first cast is going to be.
That's right. And it can be anything. It can be, you'll see points of grass or like you said, shell, but just developing a memory, and you don't even have to today's electronics.
No, I put it in there and then put it in my notes, shell bed, back right corner, a tree. I put I see incoming tide on it.
And there you go. You can use data to help you along those lines, but that's been a study of mine, like living on the tides, right? I've been fishing tides for 30 years.
That's why tidal guys typically do really well on tidal fisheries.
Yeah. You look down a bank and you're like, oh, I'm coming back at high, or I'm coming back, on an outgoing.
Like a Terry Scroggins on the St. John,
exactly.
Ike on the Delaware, stuff like that. It's just such a bigger advantage over guys like me, guys from the plains.
At times, but here's the advantage of the non-tidal guys that crush it on tides, especially when there's grass involved. Grass beds are like the great equalizer. We see it on the Potomac River all the time. Like especially this time of year where the fish are clamoring to spawn and they're populating a grass bed. Guys will I don't care about the tide. I'm just going to go to the grass bed and I'm going to fish there until I'm done.
You'll catch them on low, high, middle.
I'll catch them when I catch them, but I'm not leaving. And that can be a great equalizer, on a tidal system. Interesting stuff. Great conversation. But Alex, let's go to another question. By the way, you mess with this lure, I'm going to give a shout out.
Okay, yeah,
right here to Black Talon. Keith at Black Talon. Thank you, buddy, for hooking me up.
It looks sexy
with this bait. I caught my first glide fish down here on the James River.
Ooh.
As long as the bait. I did not be, but I did trigger a strike, and it was a lot of fun. So Thank you very much for that, Keith. Look forward to dialing that bait in a little bit more. But Alex, let me throw it to you.
Yeah, that's awesome, Pete. We had like I said, good questions coming on each side again. And this one's from K. Argyle Outdoors over on the message board. And he wants to know, we'll start with Matt and then go to Pete on this one. He wants to know, what is the most important thing to know about tides for someone who has never fished on tidal water before?
Yeah, that's a great question for you because you faced that exact thing last year.
The most important thing to know on tides is how to read your tide and figure out what tide you're on when you get a bite. That's the most important thing. Because if you replicate it or duplicate it, and so like the biggest thing that took me was like, okay, let's say you're fishing a 1-day event on like a Saturday and you practice on a Thursday and a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So like where you get bit on Thursday, it's like 2 hours later than that by the time your tournament is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get bit there at like 8 a.m. on Thursday and you go back there at 8 a.m. on Saturday,
not the same
it's
condition.
A totally different fishery. Like the dynamics have completely changed. So understanding how to read your tide chart and knowing where you are on the tide when you get bit, to me, was the most important thing. And then like after you do it for a couple days, it kind of becomes second nature. Like and then you kind of put your game plan together. Okay, like, and then like I found I was like running the tide and didn't even realize I was running the tide because like you just are kind of like boom, 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 and like you put it together. And what you're basically doing is you're running the tide, not in a complex manner, but in a roundabout way. Like I'm starting like, okay, because of how it is there, I'm going to start up like at the mouth. I'm going to make a stop there and there so I can get a little bit, it's going to be turning quicker. So that would be my piece of advice.
And that's great advice, and it's so key. Like the advice I gave you is throw your tides or throw your time away. That's not important. It's about what tide that your success
tide over time. That's the dean.
Yes, tide trumps time when you're on a tidal body of water. And like you said, a lot of times the further I am away from a tournament, I like to practice in the evenings because I'm going to see the same tide in the evening on like a Sunday or Monday that I'll see in the morning on Thursday and Friday. So I'm able to, while a lot of guys might be eating dinner, that's the tide that you want to be practicing because, that's what you're going to see during the event. So, kind of same as you, but tide trumps time. But that's a great question. And Alex, we're going to handle it. I'd like to go through a few more, and I want to get Matt home. I know we still have one more day of practice, and our tournament starts on Thursday. So we're gonna take a few more questions and then shut her down, and then we'll keep you guys posted. Hopefully, we'll both be doing well. Come Thursday.
Stay out of my holes.
Well, yeah, we got a couple of good questions here to hit before we wrap up. And so this one's for Matt, comes from J-Rod. And he wants to know, Matt, how do you change up your drop shot setup on a tidal fishery, or does it change at all?
The weight.
You got a barnacle.
No, the tidal weight is the biggest thing. Teardrop tungsten because it translates the bottom feel better, but you're fishing the bait entirely differently if you're going with a 3/16, a quarter, or 3/8, and it depends on whether you're trying to stick it on a dog post, side press, whether you're trying to drift it past it, whether you're area casting, because there's some places where I want to like put it behind, like if I think there's a bed there or something. So I'm going to throw a heavier drop shot weight in there. There's others where I'm trying to make it natural and basically kind of drift it past it. So I think I've found varying your drop shot weights is key in maximizing the amount of bites you get based on what type of structure you're fishing. Whereas typically most part on a lake, like unless something drastically changed like wind or depth, I'm going to stick with the same drop shot weight for the duration of the day.
Yeah, and drop shot is huge for you.
Yeah.
I watched your pie chart from last year. What was it, like of your fish were caught drop
Yeah,
shot?
81% of my fish were caught on a spinning rod, and like 47% through all 9 tournaments were caught on a drop shot.
Wow.
And I mean, it worked. Like, I mean, the whole goal for me is you can't leave fish on the table. So throughout 18 days of competition, I left 3 fish on the table. I had 4 one day, or I had 1. No, I left.
I got you. Yeah.
I had 1 at Smith on day 2, and then I only had 3 at Oneida. Other than that, I had a limit every single day, and that was, I mean, a lot because of drop shot.
Wow. The drop shot. I know.
But I had 0 top 20s last year, so I mean, there's a double-edged sword there.
Brooks Parker practices with me mainly because he throws the drop shot a lot, and I get frustrated with the drop shot. I can't stand it because of it's in the darn drop shot leader. It wraps around everything. It's just, unless it's in your hand all the time, I'm always fighting the drop shot. How can you help me with that?
You need a rubber band on the bottom of your rod.
I do. I need that.
You just tuck that weight in there.
I need some psychological help as well. It's just I've refused to throw it and watch tournaments get won on it, and I'm still.
Oh, you're not a D-shotter?
Very, very, very rarely. You know, I've had good finishes on the drop shot.
I will tell you what, the drop shot is a great way to finish just outside the money. You're looking to drive home wishing you had one more quality bite, throw a drop shot all day.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Well, now you're not encouraging me to throw it because I am here to win. I am here to.
But see, I'm not. I'm fishing for points.
Right.
I'm fishing overall. I'm looking for consistency. I'm looking for,
make it to the elite.
I'm sacrificing, in my opinion, wins, top 10s, top 20s for. I'm looking at percentages.
Right.
If I can have the highest percentage of a top 50 finish, that's what I'm looking for. Which is, I mean, that's not the way to fish for everybody.
Right.
Like if you're fishing 3 and you're trying to make the elites through one division, you only have 50 points on the table. You have to finish in the top 16 in all 3. It's going to be hard to do that for finesse fishing. If you're trying to make the classic, it's hard to win one, on a power fishery like the James River on the finesse. If you're trying to dink and dunk and average it out over 10 months on 9 fisheries that you're not familiar with, then it becomes a little bit more viable.
Yeah. Well, and I say that I'm trying to win in that. My goal is to try to make the classic. That's my goal.
Plus, you've won before, so you know what it's like. And I feel like everyone I've talked to that's won one, all they want to do is win another one. It's just an addictive feeling.
It's a thrill. It's a thrill, and it doesn't happen nearly enough, except unless you're Jason Christie, who seems to win an unfair amount, and Brian Schmidt does too. Another one that pops into my head. But they seem to win an unfair amount of tournaments. Obviously, Kevin is the big one, but no, that's my goal. My goal is not to qualify for the elites. My goal is to win. And I'll be honest, I love fishing that way. It's so awesome because I strategize differently. I try to practice to my strengths, and I fish. I look for ways that I think.
Throw this.
I look for ways that I think I can win, not necessarily the way you can win or a different guy. So it's fun to practice that way. And Alex, I'm going to throw it to you for one more question. What do you got?
All right. The last one we'll go to is from our man, Stephen Walden. Shout out to Stephen over there on the message board. And so his was really more of a comment, but I'm going to turn it into a question here. So he said, the James River is like an obstacle course. He feels like he's just going to go out there and lose, hundreds and thousands of dollars of props and lower units when he's out there. So what advice would you guys give to someone that's, it's their first time or they're new to navigating some risky water? So we'll start with Matt and then go to Pete on how you would navigate the sketchy stuff.
This goes for me across the country. There's nothing wrong with idling. Like, you will jack up a lot less stuff idling. Now, if you get on metal, you'll still mess the boat, but you won't tip it from the top to the bottom. Like, I do a lot of idling, and I don't care if a guy blows past me on pad. I don't care if I don't feel 100% comfortable with it. I idle, and that saves props and lower units and boats. And you might have a guy pass that's like, oh, that guy doesn't know where he's going. Yeah, no, I don't know where I'm going, and that's why I'm idling. So I have no problem. I'd rather spend an extra 30 minutes and get a trail back into a backwater area than rip around and pray.
100%. I love it because that you're wise beyond your years, because so you just gotta be patient and you gotta slow down a little bit, and that's a great one. Lake Master, get good mapping, get amazing mapping. It's available, and that's going to help you a lot. But the deal that this is the little analogy I use. If you idle in, you can run out. Right? If you idle in and didn't hit anything,
unless we're on a tidal fishery. But yeah,
always do your exploring on incoming tide, especially on water that you're not that familiar with. If you get stuck on an incoming tide, you're going to get floated in just a little while. But you get stuck on an outgoing tide,
it's going to be a while.
Have you ever heard of a tidal?
No.
There you
go. Yep. I take your time. I love that. That's a great question, and I appreciate all you guys, all the great questions. We've got some stuff to give away, and we've got a trivia question. Riz, you got that trivia question handy?
I do. That's right. I'll get that queued up. We also had a Facebook like and share going on tonight, guys. So if you haven't yet, now's your chance. Like and share tonight's feed. You'll be entered in for a random drawing to win an awesome prize. And our trivia question for tonight is about yours truly, right next to you, Pete, Mr. Matt Pangrac.
This is the one that beat, he said.
The question is tonight, Matt Pangrac of Bass Talk Live is a man of many names. Panger, Young Grasshopper, Matthew, Mr. Shovin' Stuff, and of course, the Nature Boy. Tonight's Tackle Direct grand prize, the question is, how did Matt or Matthew get the nickname Nature Boy? How did Matt get the nickname the Nature Boy?
I've told this story I think twice on BTL, but Jeffries retired that nickname in honor of Ric Flair like 3 years ago when he went through his health issues. What Rick did, he's like, we can't call him. I'm like, fine, that's fine with me. Just then he picked up Matthew, but there is a story, multiple stories behind that one.
Alex, you got the answer, right?
What's that?
Do.
We have the answer already?
Oh no, I was just saying Alex has the answer to monitor.
I do. Yep, I'll keep an eye out for it.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's gonna get it. I think you're gonna have to do a double or nothing tackle pack.
You'd be surprised. Our guys seem to figure it out somehow. They
no.
We usually don't get very long for the grand prize.
Retell it because I remember this story, but it's just not.
If no one gets it, we just have to end it, right? It's just this mystery.
Oh, just no prize.
It might just roll over into next show.
Roll over.
That's right.
You're going to talk about a big live next week.
Yes.
Double prize.
You're not getting a show-up trophy at Bass University.
Yeah, no participations from the dean. Not at all. Oh man! But so we also had a Facebook like and share winner tonight, and that is Dan Kowalski. Congratulations, Dan Kowalski. I showed some of the baits a little earlier. Let me grab them again.
Awesome.
Got some awesome stuff going out tonight from Rapala. That's a DT6 in the right color for right now too. The Demon, Ike's Demon. We got some Nico hooks. We got some Tokyo rigs. We got a Rod Warrior rod sleeve. We got a pretty awesome Rapala hat there. Guys, a lot of good stuff going out the door. Bash You Live.
So how are you liking the host seat at BTL?
It's a lot more work.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I enjoy it. I mean, Mark ran the show for 17 years. I co-hosted with him for 12 of those years.
It's hard to believe it's that long.
It's a big change. I mean, it's a different show, but I like it. Feedback's been good. A lot of good feedback from the listeners. So, a lot of things planned for the future, but right now just trying to get comfortable with it, and it's a lot of work with the 9 opens doing all the shows, keeping up. There's heavy hitters is going on now. Christy just won the Bassmaster Elite Series. So I scheduled Christy for BTL the Monday after I got back next week. And then I'll do the heavy hitter stuff and then have to do a bunch of shows to get ready for the next Open. So,
right.
But I enjoy it. I mean, we're talking about fishing. So I mean, it's really hard to complain when that's what you get to do.
You're either fishing or talking about fishing.
That's it.
What could be better?
Catching enough to win this week. But
what
best fishermen are never happy. You have 30, you want 35. If you have 20, you want 21.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think I think that's good.
Well, and when you get the win, the beauty of it is you're going to win again, and we've seen that over and over with guys. Once they crack that W, it's just a matter of time until they can crack another W.
Was there something special about your win? Was it when your first major win that you had? Were you did it unlock something to where you were like, holy cow, I don't have to be Superman or do something insane to win a tournament? Was it something that changed that made you fish differently from that day forward?
This, believe it or not, this happened in 1999, and I asked myself that exact question. It was a great question, and I wrote down in a notebook everything that was going through my head at practice, and during the tournament, to try to understand.
That is all. That's awesome.
How I found that zone in that week. But the one, and there's a lot that, there's a lot that happened, but the one thing that I remembered writing, and is I fished from my first cast to my last like I had 20 pounds in the live well. I fished like that every moment of that tournament. And it's kind of, to me, that was like the beginnings of I coined fish the moment. Or you're just open. Like if you have 20 pounds in the box.
No, that's an insane feeling because you're relaxed in some way, but you're also know that you're on the precipice of greatness. So there's a whole different level of intensity because it feels like you're one bite away from a magical day.
And you're not fishing defensively. Yeah. You're not protecting. You're
not questioning yourself.
No, you're looking for opportunity and your mind is like, you're not encumbered by the pressures of a tournament.
Nugget, man. That's a nugget of knowledge right there.
Fish like you have 20 pounds in the box. The guy that can do that out of the gate is, well.
That's why I think you see so many Elite Series guys win Opens. Not only because they're the most talented guys who have proven themselves to get there, but because they come in, they know they've succeeded at this level. It's not a do or die for them. They're already on the Elite Series. This is a bonus. Their goal is to win, to make the Classic. And I think they go out a little bit freer fishing like they have 20 pounds in the box. Because if they come in with one, it's on to the next Elite Series. It's not, well, I got to wait till next year to qualify for my dream.
Right.
So I think you combine with being able to fish free with insane talent. And that's why you see a lot, Polynix and Lester's, all the guys in the past that have won Opens. I think they're there level because they're fishing like they got 20 pounds in the box.
They're there. They're not like, oh man, I've got to get that
shot for 2.25 pounders pulling up for ounces.
You're gonna catch 20 pounds and we're on that drop shot.
I hope not tomorrow.
You know what I mean. The next day, it's gonna happen. But that fishing free, because what I found is the pressures of the tournament can prevent your creative thought, like your just ability to adjust quickly. Yeah. My ability to recognize that there are ants now all over our house.
Are there?
Yeah, they keep crawling in front of us right now. Look, there's one right there.
Oh yeah.
This hot weather brought the ants out.
Oh, those are harmless.
Well, fishing free, fishing open, and being able to not succumb to those pressures allows you to just solve problems better. It's pretty cool stuff. I hope that everybody gets an opportunity to fish that way for one of these big derbies. It's a phenomenal experience. Highly recommended.
Winning. Highly recommended. Another hot tips and ask you next week. Pete recommends top 10s.
Good sound advice coming from the dean as always. Alex, we're gonna have to move on to the next show.
If you can't win, I would recommend the top. Feels almost as good.
Yeah.
I think we might have to roll it over here, Pete. No one has quite got it yet.
Brian, no one's gonna get
it.
that because I haven't told that story for like 4 years.
Dude, we are gonna take. I like your idea. We're gonna roll it over and do a double prize.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and announce it now what the prize is going to be. It's going to be the tackle pack, but we're going to give away a dang Hydro Wave next week.
Yeah. That's worth it. Yeah, we got to stack this up, man. It just
Look at
ramped
this.
up.
And if you guys think I'm fooling, look, it's right here. TH Marine Hydro Wave. All right, guys, next week, tune in. We are going to give this thing away for the right answer. So
that's awesome.
Okay.
Well, all right, calling it. We're calling it right now. Now we got to know the answer. How did you get the?
Oh no! Are we just gonna roll it over like the same question for next week? Or?
No. Those guys they'll find the answer. They'll spend. The next
okay.
Probably have a DM on it now.
Yeah.
Basically, there is an article about me fishing, and the guy who wrote the article must have Googled it or something. And one of the things that came up was that when I was in middle school, I won an award for my photography and like essay on the life cycle of the 17-year cicada in Illinois.
That is phenomenal.
Fish, and then it said, and in middle school, he also won an award for his work with cicadas. And it came up, and Jeffries found it, and then he started calling me the nature boy because of that. And then I started every day when I would go out and shoot photos of the Elite Series when I was covering it. I would make a point to find some sort of animal on the bank. Like I remember I shot like fox and bobcats, all the birds, gators, everything, and I would always put nature photos in the BTL galleries. But that nickname started with an article that someone scrounged up that I was an award-winning author on the 17th cicada.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
All right. Nature boy, that's great. Nobody got that question. I didn't remember.
I know that was very obscure, so I don't know whether to. I guess Brian gets props for that.
Yeah. Well, it's the first stump we've ever had. Usually, I mean, out of our questions, man, it's like the question isn't out of your lips yet. And they're anticipating. They're clicking that Jeopardy clicker,
As I say, you have had to have steel trap memory and listen to BTL like in 2019.
Well, I hope you guys listen to Bass Talk Live. You guys are on 4 days a week.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Day 4 is on Thursday. With Frank Scalish, former Elite Series pro. He comes and drops some knowledge. And then I got a real cool thing with St. Jude going right now. I'm fishing a tournament in May, and for the next couple days, you can go to basson.com and donate to St. Jude.
Awesome.
For my team. 100% of the profits go to St. Jude for that Dick Hiley Classic up there. They've raised over $5 million for St. Jude in 24 years. Big time up north.
Yeah.
Big time team tournament up north.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome that you're doing that.
Yep. Enjoy it.
Me and my son support St. Jude as well.
Awesome.
And it's obviously a great program that you're doing. Go check it out. We'll all check you out at BTL.
Thanks for having me. I had fun tonight.
I had fun.
I'm glad I came in. You guys have a nice little cabin going. You're you got a grocery store behind you, but you got horses in the front yard.
Every day, the horses. Can horses kill you?
Absolutely.
They look when I out of my door, they look at me.
Don't stand behind them or slap them on the butt.
I'm not gonna do that. I was like envisioning him like stalking me at night because they look like they.
You ever heard of a horse fight?
I guess
they can take a nipple off.
Well, we'll keep their distance. Wish you best of luck at the tournament. I hope
we're in it together, so best of luck to you too.
That would be awesome.
Just have solid nerves.
Let's see each other again on Saturday.
Saturday morning.
That's a date.
About 6 a.m.
Yes. I was leading the tournament here 2 or 3 tournaments ago, and I forgot my boat insurance wasn't updated. So they held me back and let the entire field go.
How long did that take?
God bless my wife. She went into my office and found an I had last year's card. Yeah.
But you had it.
I had it. And she found it, which was impossible.
How long did that take?
It took 15 minutes.
Oh,
but it
that's
was
nice. It's because you were starting with 20 pounds in the live well, just with your mentality. So it was no big deal here.
But it was 15 minutes of death.
Yeah.
You can't imagine, because there's no insurance company's going to open the door.
You're like, I'm waiting till 8:30 or 9.
Noon.
I gotta run.
It's over, But anyway, so hopefully we see each other Saturday and we both have our insurance papers. I just make sure you check yours. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Riz. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate all you guys at Bash U. By the way, if you're watching over on Facebook and you just got this share, go get subscribed to bashu.tv. It's 30 days free right now, and we have some amazing stuff from Jesse Wiggins and from Bill Lowen that is going to be dropped in the very, very near future. It's going to help you become a better angler. And that's Matt Pangrac. I'm Pete Kluzek, Bash University TV. Good night, everybody.